It was a quiet weekend in Salford, England. While most people were asleep, a group of men were deep underground, literally, armed not with guns, but with shovels, drills, and an astonishing plan. They were digging toward one of the boldest robberies in British history. When daylight came, the staff at a local bank opened their vaults to find the unimaginable. A tunnel, 50 feet long, hand-dug, leading straight into their vault, and the money gone. This is the story of the Salford Tunnel Heist, a meticulously planned operation that baffled investigators, shocked the public, and left behind a mystery that has never been fully solved. Salford, just outside Manchester, was once a gritty industrial heartland, a place of factories, warehouses, and hard-working communities. By 2007, the city was changing, modernizing, but parts of it still held a rough edge, the kind of streets where secrets could hide. At the center of this story was a small branch of the Bank of Ireland, located in the Cheetham Hill area of Salford. It wasn't a massive city centre bank, just a modest branch where locals cashed checks, made deposits, and trusted that their money was safe behind steel doors. But just beneath that bank, something extraordinary was happening. A team of criminals was quietly constructing one of the most elaborate tunnels in modern British crime. The heist began long before the crime itself, months of careful planning. It started in an empty shop unit, about 100 feet away from the bank. The shop appeared abandoned, its windows dusty, its interior dark, but behind its locked doors, the gang was working day and night. They brought in industrial tools, wooden supports, and ventilation tubing. They studied the ground beneath them, calculating how far and how deep they'd need to dig to reach the vault. Slowly, over the course of several months, they created a tunnel stretching more than 50 feet underground, just wide enough for a person to crawl through. At its deepest point, it was almost 10 feet below the surface, reinforced with timber beams to prevent collapse. Imagine the conditions: the darkness, the humidity, the endless scraping of metal against earth. It was claustrophobic, filthy, and unbelievably risky. One wrong move, and the tunnel could have caved in, burying them alive. But somehow, they kept going. Then, in January 2007, the gang finally broke through the concrete wall beneath the bank vault. Once inside, they moved swiftly. They opened cash drawers and safes, collecting everything they could find. More than £80,000 in notes before disappearing back through the tunnel. By the time the staff arrived on Saturday morning, the thieves were long gone. What remained was a surreal sight: a gaping hole in the floor of the vault, a pile of rubble, and a tunnel snaking into darkness. Just desperate men who saw an opportunity and took it. But if that were true, where did they get the tools, the expertise, the nerve, to pull off something straight out of a movie? When the story hit the headlines, the public was captivated. The BBC, The Guardian, and Sky News all covered it extensively. Newspapers called it the Great Salford Tunnel Heist, comparing it to the legendary Hatton Garden robbery that would happen years later. People were amazed not just by the crime itself, but by the sheer effort behind it. Digging 50 feet underground without being noticed. It sounded almost impossible. One police spokesperson admitted, "We don't know how they did it without anyone hearing. There must have been noise, dust, vibrations. Someone must have seen something." But no one did. No witnesses, no suspicious deliveries, no late-night activity noticed by neighbours. To many, it became a symbol of Britain's criminal ingenuity, a real-life echo of the Great Train robbery or the Baker Street heist. Except this time, the tunnel was the star of the show. On internet forums and crime blogs, people speculated about what happened next. Had the thieves escaped abroad? Had they fallen out over the money? Was the cash still buried somewhere in Salford? Years later, the mystery continued to fascinate amateur sleuths and local historians alike. Despite an extensive investigation, no one has ever been charged in connection with the Salford Tunnel Heist. The case officially remains unsolved. No CCTV footage ever surfaced. No fingerprints matched any database. And the £80,000 has never been recovered. So many questions linger. Who were these men? How did they manage to dig 4 months without being detected? And why risk everything for what, in the end, was a relatively small payout compared to the effort involved. Some investigators have suggested the heist might not have gone according to plan. Perhaps the gang expected to find millions, but when they finally broke through, they realized the vault held far less than they'd imagined. Others think the crime was a test run, a way to prove their skills before attempting a bigger job. If that's true, did they ever strike again under a different name, in a different city? And if they didn't, what happened to them? Did they disappear with their modest fortune, or were they silenced by their own associates? No one knows. What we do know is that this tunnel, a crude yet astonishing piece of underground engineering, stood as proof of their audacity. When police filled it in, they effectively buried not just evidence, but one of the most extraordinary unsolved stories in British crime. The Salford Tunnel Heist remains a riddle wrapped in earth and concrete, a story of ambition, skill, a mystery buried beneath the streets of Manchester. Most robberies rely on speed. This one relied on patience. It wasn't violence that made it memorable, but craftsmanship, the slow, deliberate carving of a path towards someone else's fortune, whoever they were. These men turned crime into architecture. They built something hidden, something daring, something that defied the ordinary limits of criminal imagination. In the end, the Salford Tunnel Heist reminds us that even in a world of high-tech alarms and digital security, sometimes the simplest tools, a shovel, a plan, and persistence can still outsmart the system. And perhaps that's why the story endures. Because beneath every city, beneath every vault, beneath every quiet street, there's always the possibility that someone, somewhere, is digging toward their next great secret.
This is Crimes Unknown, where cold cases refuse to stay buried. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more haunting mysteries. And don't forget to like the video to support real crime stories that deserve to be heard. Drop your theories in the comments.